Okay. Welcome back to the Automate Office Work podcast. I'm your host, Justin. Today is episode 92, titled My Dad's Thoughts on Automation. And we have a special guest today coming all the way from the United States to the studio in the Netherlands. My dad, also known as Pops, father figure, and sometimes James, because he likes to be called by his first name sometimes, even by his own kids.
Or jammies.
Or jammies. That's a great pronunciation of a common name. That's funny. And you might hear some dad jokes in this episode as well. So today we're going to do a conversation where I just talk with my father figure, dad, Pops, about how he has experienced automation and technology throughout his life, what it's like for him today as a user of technology, and his thoughts on the future. Any more words from you before we get into questions?
Yes, I am very thankful to come all the way from the United States to be on my son's podcast, and I am honored to be on the podcast. And most of the stupid dad jokes will probably be coming from my son.
Polite laugh. All right. So tell us about I think I just mentioned that you were a barber. Do you want to go into what was that career like? How did you get into it?
Well, I met Justin's mother when we were in high school. We were probably 17 years old. And I had no idea what career I would be going into. I was working at a bakery while I was going to high school. My family was very poor, and to have money for clothes or doing anything, it required working. So I worked a lot through high school, and going through college, I worked at a bakery, night shifts, and then I would go to school during the day. And his mother was going to cosmetology school, and I was in college and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I thought to myself, she got out of cosmetology school and decided she wanted to go to barber school also. So I thought, why not just go with her? We would have something we could do together. We could run our own business and life would be happily ever after. So, not knowing that I would love the career that I chose, I became a barber.
And what was your first barber shop like? Were you working for somebody else, or was it you owned it?
The first barber shop, the first job was an opening. We were in Missoula, Montana, which is western Montana. And Montana is about 600 miles across from east to west. And we were on the western side and went all the way to the eastern side, which was about 600 miles, which is how many kilometers is 600 miles?
It's a lot. It takes
It's
like 10
about
hours to drive across or something.
about 800, 850. But so I got my license. I found out there was a job in a little small town called Sidney, Montana, just a small rural town. And I got in the car and I drove, and the drive was one of the worst snowstorms we've ever had, and it took me hours and hours to get there. And it's amazing I even made it through the snowstorm. But I did, and worked at an old barber shop. It was called the OK Barber Shop, and they needed somebody to work there. It was just a town barber shop. So got
How many
there.
people in the town? A couple thousand?
There were probably 6,000
Hmm.
people in the town, but got there and everybody was just so excited that there was a barber coming in to fill the barber shop. So from the very first day we got there, there
Wait,
was business.
were you the only barber?
I was the only barber
Wow.
in the town, and after a little while, his mother came in and we worked together at that shop.
Wow. And this is approximately in the 80s.
This would be 1981, 82. Yes,
All right.
long time ago.
So I'm hearing rural, small town.
It was a town. It was called the Williston Basin, and it was an oil town. It was like they had an oil boom going. It was also ranching, sugar beets, agriculture.
Ah,
But it was a town that was a little nuts because we had the oil workers coming together with the farm workers, which made it interesting. And it was also very cold that winter. I got there in October, and the temperatures would get to 40, 50 below zero
wow.
there in the wintertime. It was very cold.
That's cold in both Fahrenheit and Celsius.
Yes, that would be cold. Cold is cold.
Wow. What was your experience with technology like before this? Had you worked with computers at college or in school? And how big were these computers?
When I was in college, my mother thought that I should study computer things. I had no idea what computer things even were. And I took a class at the university, and the computer was the size of a building. It was huge, and it was not even anything near what we do on our little laptops today. Just to sign into it, there was a class just to learn how to sign into this computer, and to me it was very overwhelming.
Hmm. Did it? Okay, so I remember hearing a memory from your own father, my grandfather, before he passed. I remember something like he graduated from university himself around like the 1950s. He went and interviewed for a job as like a computer salesman. And I remember hearing from him that he went and looked at the computer. It took up the size of an entire building. He thought it was the stupidest thing and just walked away from the interview. He didn't want to sell those.
Yeah, it was to me it was overwhelming. I can't even imagine what it was like to my father. So
Wow. Did you ever get a feeling like this is the future, or was it like this is stupid? This is never going to catch on.
I had no idea that it would be the future, and what it could even do at the time.
Wow. So when you were a barber and you walked into the barber shop the first time, you had no expectation that technology would have an impact on your career.
We had telephones with little dialy things on them,
Like
the
spinny.
half the little spinny things, and half the time they would get stuck, and you'd have to hold them and they go and and there was we didn't even have touch tone phones at the time, the little touchy like and that was our technology, was a telephone. Walking into the barber shop, you'd plug in your clippers and you'd hang up your towels and your scissors and just the basic barber tools, and you were ready to go to work. We had just like a little notebook. We would write down our appointments and how much we made. Our accounting system was just adding things up. I don't even recall taking credit cards. It was cash only. I don't think people even thought about paying for things with credit cards back then.
Checks? Did they have checks?
Oh, a lot of people paid by checks.
Okay.
Yes, that was the big way to pay without cash.
Huh. And what did marketing look like? How did people find out? Just
Most marketing was just word of mouth. If people heard that there was a new barber in town, they'd bring their kids, they'd come in and they needed a haircut, they would just start coming to see you. And I would spend money mostly on little newspaper ads supporting the local sports teams and the local schools, just being part of community. You would join clubs. You would join the Rotary Club. We had the Lions Club. I don't know if people know what that is. We had Elks Club. We had a lot of we had the Masons. We just had the clubs, and you would do that. You would meet everybody. That would be your social network other than going to church. And that was a big part of advertising, was just being part of the community.
That sounds nice.
It very simple.
It's different than today, where people don't have community as much.
Hmm. But the simplicity is just you showed up and they either liked you or they didn't like you. And a lot of times they didn't have anywhere else to go. So you were either it, or your main competition was the mothers cutting everybody's hair, which, they would decide, is it worth it to go to the barber and do that? So there's a certain amount of people that you're going to
Uh,
get because they just want to get away. It's a place to go. It's something to do and be part of being around other people.
it, it sounds like your barbershop was another part of their social network.
Totally.
It-
We were a community. They would show up and we would have 4, 5, 6, 7 people waiting. They would all talk to each other. They would in the small towns, everybody knew each other, so they would talk with each other. We'd tell silly jokes and stories, and it was a community place for people to meet, and it was a great place to become part of the community. The people would love to talk about themselves, their jobs, and our job was just to let them get to know their families, get to know, is mother sick, is what problems do they have? They love to talk about things, and I was as much a therapist as I was a barber to these people.
wow. There's so much here that you can't automate.
I don't think there's a whole lot of automation in that. No.
So in the waiting area, people talked. I imagine today a person would come into your waiting area and be glued to their phone screen.
Hmm. Not so much. No. They come in and I will have 4 or 5 people, and between those people, they would talk to each other and they would find something in common. In fact, just last month, I'm retired, but I go back to take care of my clientele in California. I live in the East Coast now, but once about 6 weeks, I fly back just to take care of clients. And I've got a small shop built into my house in Sacramento, California. And just last week, a couple of customers came in, and they still, a lot of them have never met each other. But one guy came in, and I don't know if you remember him, but
Hmm.
um, Ed Gatowski.
Would he want his name on the podcast, or do
Oh, he
we?
doesn't care.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't care. But he came in, and he was a teacher. He's an English second language teacher at a small college that I live at. And one of the other clients was a football coach and a teacher at that same college, but he was 80 and Ed's probably 50, but they didn't know each other, but they had so much in common. And if you take 4 or 5 people, between those 5 people, they all have a lot of things in common that they can talk about. So one of the interesting is this guy Ed that I met. I was living in Sacramento, and I was traveling and I was in Paris, and I'm in a little hostel, and it was called the Blue Planet. Do you remember the Blue Planet in Paris at all?
No.
But anyway, so I'm in there, and I'd been in Europe for a while, and we were traveling around. I was traveling with my daughter, and this guy's in there, and he's got an Eddie Bauer shirt on, which I take as an American thing. And he was jet lagging like crazy, and we started talking to each other. And this was in 2002, 2001.
Hmm.
It was before the World Tower things. That's how I judge time. But I start talking to him because he's just trying to stay awake and jet lagging. And we start talking, and he says, "Oh, you're from America?" And yes. He says, "What state?" He says, "California." He says, well, me too. He says, where at in California? And he says, Sacramento. And I said, well, I'm from Sacramento too. And he says, well, where do you work? And I told him I had a little shop there. And the little university that he works at turned out to be 2 blocks away from where I worked. And so we became good friends, and we've been friends for the last 24 years. And this is the guy I'm talking about that was in the shop, and he started talking with the football coach. His name was Don, but I have known these people for years, and it's amazing the social aspect. And the thing I don't like about the technology so much is it takes away from people talking to each other just as people. So I don't know. The main thing about my job was not cutting their hair. It was it was giving them a fun place to get a haircut. It was a service they needed, it was a service I provided, but that's not what I did. I was not just a barber. I was a place for them to come, and I became parts of their family. And to this day, I get these clients I've had for 40 years have had kids that I've cut their hair their whole lives. They have kids, they have grandkids, and the kids get married, and they all invite me to their weddings. And and I don't know why. It's because weddings are for family and friends. I become part of their family. And I'm honored for that, but I go to the wedding and I don't know anybody. But I know everybody because they've talked about all their family. So I know everything about them. I get invited to a funeral and they want me to stand up and talk about them. And I'm thinking, there's some things I know that you don't want me to say. and I respectfully don't say that, but I always laugh and tell them that. I say, I know every one of you, even though I've never met you. And I know some things that you probably don't want me to talk about. And they all laugh. They think it's funny, but it's true because I know them better than a lot of their own family know them at that point.
That's funny. I think that's a great way to end this section about your past and how what it was like. And now let's talk about the tools that you've used and how they have changed over time. What tools did you use from day one, and are any of them still in your toolbox?
Okay, well, when we went to barber college, as my son likes to call it.
Oh, he's using air quotes for those for those who are just listening to audio only. There's some sarcasm there.
he, you know, he'd,
College.
he'd say, well, my dad went to university, he went to barber college, and it's a technical school. It's all good. It doesn't matter. But anyway, when we went to school, we got a case of tools that were not really very good. Um, we got like an Andis master clipper with a little thumb thing that went to a skin to a one, and then we got a comb and scissors and the thinning shears.
Do you
The
still have any of those?
oh, have them all. Do I use them? Not so much. I don't really like them. They're something that maybe somebody could use at home cutting their own kids' hair, but as far as running a business and when I'm cutting somebody's hair, I need power. I need that tool to cut through that hair like it's just not even there. And if it doesn't, it's very frustrating. So I would not use those cheap tools. I'm a firm believer of if you do something for a living, get the best tool you can possibly get.
Where have you seen the biggest upgrade to your barber tools?
Okay, the biggest upgrade. Um, I had worked for several years, and I just used um, there's a pair of clippers called the Oster 76 clippers that instead of having the magnetic drive on them that buzz, you know how the buzzers go buzz
Zzz.
buzz, they have a motor that has a like a worm drive that drives it, which is a much better cutting clipper than I'd ever known. And I have to say, I didn't even know coming out of barber school, they didn't teach you a lot about tools. They didn't even teach us the numbers of the clipper blades. Everybody knows the numbers, but why they didn't teach us that in barber school, I have no idea. It's like every number on a blade, and whether it's metric, it's like 1.2, and ours is just a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every number was an eighth of an inch
Huh.
that you would put on it. So that was your guide
That's
up
useful to
to
know.
a certain point. I didn't even know that when I got out of barber school, what a number was, which was ridiculous.
So an 8 was 1 inch.
An 8 is 1 inch, a 4 is a half inch, a 2 is a quarter of an inch. It's a very, it's like a carpenter not knowing what a ruler is. It's quite funny, but my first big upgrade was the Oster 76 clipper, and it was like, wow, but the only problem is it's louder than the little buzzer clippers, and it made you feel like it was loud. And I was always concerned that I'd have that noise in their ear, but the customers never cared. So that was big. The second biggest thing that I did, I had a Filipino girl working for me, and she had this pair of clippers that was hooked up to a vacuum. It was a little box, and it would suck people's hair. So when you ran the clipper, like you run the clipper, and it would suck the hair right into the clipper, and you could do anything you wanted. You could free form like becoming an artist. You could do flat tops just by holding it over it, and you just go, and it would suck right up into the blade, and it was amazing. And it kept the hair off the clients. It kept it off of me. I hate hair. I had a kid one time. He looked at me. He said, "You're a barber. You don't like hair?" And I'm like, "I like it when it's on people's hair and it's nice and soft and you can style it. But once you cut it, no, I do not like having hair on me, on my clients, on the floor." And the vacuum was a great tool. It was a better tool. It kept the hair off the blades. It kept the blades cool, kept the blades sharper longer. It was an amazing tool. But the amazing thing was being able to cut somebody's hair and not get a single hair on them while you're doing it. That's what I appreciated the tool. They appreciated not getting hair on them. And not having to sweep up hair all day saved me time. I could double my haircuts in a day just using this vacuum tool. And I have never to this day seen a shop that has this tool on it other than me. I've shown hundreds of barbers how great this tool is, and it is. I could do a whole podcast just showing you the vacuum clippers. And I've shown hundreds of barbers. I don't think a single one of them has has done it, and as in a shop. A lot of them were so impressed at what I could do, but I don't know if any of them became that, did that, because a lot of the problems is it's a little noisy. It's the noise. Not only you can put the vacuum in another room, and you can keep that noise of it away from you, but the noise becomes part of the movement of the air at the clipper, that becomes quite loud around their ears. So you have to be quite careful in keeping that noise away from them, because some people are a little sensitive to that. I've had a few customers, I've had to even give them cotton to put in their ears
Hmm.
so they can stand it. But once they realize that they can get a haircut and not have a single hair on them, they don't have to go take a shower. They they will come back just for that.
Wow. I think we just hit on a major theme that I'm constantly hitting on this podcast, that when you are automating, you're not just automating the entire thing, you're automating the parts that make sense, the parts that people don't want to have to deal with, like the hair, right? You're not automating away the conversation and the experience. You're automating away the parts that nobody wants to be doing, the barber or the person sitting there. And you're often using simple tools, right? So like a
Mhm.
vacuum, and you're thinking in new ways. Like to you, you have this innovation kind of a mindset that yeah, this makes sense. Everybody should be doing it. But then you see not everybody has this mindset. And then it makes you wonder why? Why don't they? Why aren't they open to new things?
I think that every barbershop in the world should hook their clippers up to a vacuum. I am amazed that nobody does, but it is an amazing thing that would change the barbers around the world, and most of them don't even know about it. The other thing that I've always done is at the end of a haircut, they've had this little machine. It's made by Oster too. I guess that's a big company for me. I love Oster, but it's called a Stimulax. It's a little scalp massage thing that you put on your hand, and your fingers become a massage.
So they vibrate
They
automatically
it
with the machine.
vibrates. So I go and it goes, I take 2 or 3 minutes after a haircut, which I can do a haircut in half the time using my vacuum. So I end up to I don't want somebody to cut their hair in 5 minutes and say, okay, we done. I want the conversation to be there. I want to tell them a joke or two. I want them to feel like, they drove 20 minutes to get a haircut. They're going to drive 20 minutes to go back home, and they get a haircut in 5 minutes. It doesn't feel like, even if I'm done in 5 minutes, I waste time to make them feel like it's kind of a special service. And one of the things is with this little scalp massager, I spend about 2 minutes, and everybody thinks it's going to be really weird. But guys are like dogs and women are like cats. If I use this little machine on a woman's hair, she'd be like, "Ah!"
Oh,
it, it would be horrible.
I thought you were going to say she purrs.
No, 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 she would not. She would be like a cat coming clawing at me. Guys are like dogs. We like our ears scratched and somebody to touch your head. Women, not so much. Women, you can massage their backs and their shoulders and everything about them, but you try to massage their head, they're not going to like it. But the guys think it's going to be weird because they're going to think, a lot of my clients have said a guy touches me and it feels good, and they think that, oh, maybe I like guys. That's not It's like getting a massage from a man or a woman. It should make no difference at all, and if it does, that's their problem, not mine.
Not
But
that there is a problem.
there is no problem with that. But after I've had people tell me they wouldn't let me, and once they have me do it, they will drive past 60 barber shops to come to me just because I do that at the end. They leave me all these reviews on Google, and they never talk about their hair, because that obviously they like their hair, but they talk about the vacuum on the clippers and the scalp massage. And they say, man, this dude, you need to go to him.
He
And
tells
it
good jokes.
and it has nothing to do with the haircut. It's all to do with making it a good, comfortable place to come to, and an enjoyable experience, not just anybody can go get a haircut anywhere. And if you don't like it, it grows out. Doesn't matter. But when I get people that will wait extra time for me because I fly from Ohio to California to cut their hair. And they all that's another thing. They'll tell their friends, my barber comes from Ohio to cut my hair. It makes me even more wanted for them. They feel really special that I travel to cut their hair. So,
Wow. So you really differentiate yourself from all the competition.
and it has nothing to do with the haircut. Nothing at all. I mean, if they don't like their haircut, I will work to do it better. If they don't like me, they won't come back. If they like me, they will come back, and I care enough to want them to feel good and to do what they want me to do. But if they don't like me, it doesn't matter. You could bounce around from barber to barber to barber, and every one you have to explain what you want to do. And it's kind of a crapshoot whether the communication is crapshoot a word?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
You can also say
it's
lottery. It's a bit of a, yeah.
well, it's a chance, and you're gonna get a haircut. You may like it, you may not like it, but you don't want to go someplace every time you go, especially something as regular as haircut. Most guys get their haircut between 3 and 6 weeks. And you don't want to look for another barber every time you go, have to explain what you want. You want to be comfortable. You want to sit down and I say same as usual and they say yep. And then we don't talk about haircuts. We talk about their family. We talk about where have you traveled? We talk about so many things. I used to have a guy that would come every Saturday morning, and his theory was that if the grass looked like it needed to be cut, it was already too late. And he did his whole life like that. He worked at a grocery store, and in America it was called Safeways. It's a big chain. Um, Albert Heijn is big here, but
In the Netherlands.
in the Netherlands. But he would come every week as a just as a tradition. And he's the one that started me with the little scalp massage thing, because he would
Mm.
come in and he was an old guy, just a little small little guy. Like he looked like a little elfish smile, and he would plan his vacations around making sure he didn't miss getting his haircut. And we every Saturday morning he would book a time for a haircut and then another time for the scalp massage, you know. And he would come in once a week, and before long I knew him better than his family knew him. And if you're out there and you really want to know people in your family, once a month book time just to talk to them, just just to sit down, not to solve problems, not to learn things, not to ask for money, not for ask for help, but just to sit down and see where the conversation goes. And if you did that once a month for half an hour, your relationship would be so much better. You'd almost have a relationship as good as they have with their barber.
I have a theory why all the barbers are hesitant to bring the vacuum into their work.
Okay, what is that?
They're afraid it will make the haircuts suck.
That's in my advertisement. I say, come here because my haircuts suck.
I remember you told me once about like there was some kind of a competitor, like a budget haircut. Like there's a haircut chain that does really cheap haircuts. It was like $6 haircuts at the time,
Mhm.
and I think they opened up a shop like right next to yours, and you told me you had a strategy for how to compete with these cheap haircuts.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
My strategy is not to lower my prices, but I would say I will fix these budget haircuts and you will enjoy the time you're spending with me.
Exactly. Exactly. You told me you were going to put up a sign that said "We fix $6 haircuts."
Yes. And and I didn't really lose clients because the real truth is if they want just a cheaper haircut, anybody's mother will do it for them. So, yeah,
You would still have the mothers as your client.
yeah, I would. And
They can't do their
I
own.
was not just a barber. I mean, his mother and I were more a family shop. We did perms and we did colors and I did women and women's haircuts along with just people expect a barber, you just cut men's hair. No, I took care of the entire family. So yeah, if the mother cut the kid's hair, I cut the mother's hair, and dad might say, "Oh,
Mm.
nope, you do the kids. I'm going there." So no, if you're worried about losing money because somebody's cheaper than you are. All you have to do is be more effective and be better than them. You know, the cost isn't the main reason why. If it was all about cost, nobody would go support a barber. You'd all cut your own hair, which which would work, but
We'd all just be bald. Just shave
yeah,
it.
I don't know about that. I'm sure a lot of women. One of my
You just said
thoughts,
if cost was the only thing, you don't
yes,
care what you look like.
yeah, and I keep like lose my strategy here.
Oh, oh,
What was I talking about?
sorry.
No,
My
I do
bad.
that all the time. I'm retired and I'm getting old, and my brain sometimes I'm thinking to say something, and it's like, what was I thinking about? But one of my thoughts was to have classes to
Oh,
teach
teach the
these
moms.
mothers how to cut their kids' hair better,
Uh-huh.
and and use it as a strategy. They're going to cut their kids' hair anyway.
Uh-huh.
Why not make some money and teach them a skill? And I could do that on a podcast. I've actually done that where I have groups of people coming over. A lot of the women, and maybe not just women, but a lot of the schools are not really good about teaching people how to use clippers, and they're kind of afraid of it. So even kids going to school, I could make it, have people sign up for a day where we do is
Mm-hmm.
talk about teaching them to use clippers, because a lot of schools don't really, the people that are teaching the schools are usually not very good to begin with. They work there because it's a cheap person they can find. In California, you don't even have to be a licensed cosmetologist or barber to teach people to cut hair in a cosmetology barber school. You don't even have to have a license to do that, which may be why they didn't teach us numbers of clipper blades, because we didn't have any guards on our clippers, and the guards are quite effective. And one of the things with guards, the vacuum sucks it up into that guard. So no matter, you could do an inch guard, and everything is good. But when I went to school, they didn't even teach us guards. They gave us this little clipper and a comb, and and
Good luck.
I got out of barber school not really knowing. you know i I thought, wow, I'm really good at this, and you realize, wow, I really suck at this. It's like any education. I think you get out of school and you go to work, and you really, if you think you know it all, you're not going to stay there. If you realize how little you know, and you want to improve yourself, then over time you will get better at anything you do, especially if you have an idea of, there's always a way to make something better. I don't care what you do. There's a way to make it better, easier, faster, simpler. Find that way, and always strive to better yourself. When you're not learning something, you're about ready. You should just hang it up, not do, and go retire like me, I suppose, and not do it anymore. But I still, I moved to a really rural town in Ohio. And one of my thoughts, our neighbors are a mile away, our nearest neighbors. It's very, very not populated. But one of my ideas is to, cut a neighbor's hair, set up a little place in the house, cut their hair, get to know them, have them tell another neighbor, say, "Hey, this guy's pretty good," and pretty soon I will meet my neighbors where I may never meet these neighbors.
Hmm.
So um, I I think the social aspect of my job was the most important thing, and it's the thing I miss most moving from California, which I did a year and a half ago. And it's what I miss most is the social interactions with people. And if you don't have that, I don't I don't care what you do. I don't think it would be that enjoyable. You could sit there and be the best programmer or the best chip maker, and you do this one little thing and you have no social interaction, and you spend your day. But are you happy? then, or are you just at a job that you're just rusting out, that you get off at the end of the day and go, whoa, I did another day, and I only have 30 more years of these days to go, and I can retire, and then I'm going to be happy. If you're not happy, find that happiness now. It doesn't come later.
That's some great tips.
Is there anything
Eh,
I left out? By the way, I really do enjoy talking. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, he's been talking my ear off like the whole time he's been here. We're finally recording stuff. Yeah. So if you're enjoying this type of content, please subscribe wherever you're getting this content, whether it's on video, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, or even if it's just audio only on Apple Podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe and share it with your friends if other people would like to hear this type of groundbreaking practical content about how to use technology and how to use it to get rid of the stuff that you don't want to do, and then it frees you up so you can actually do stuff that humans like to do, like connecting and building relationships.
Yes, I think that's very important.
All right, let's go over to the administrative parts of your work. You had to do appointments and like taking money. How did that transition happen for you? Like you stopped taking cash and you would start taking maybe you had like a credit card reader. It was like a
Yes.
kind of a thing, and then
Yes, the
finally I went to some kind of point of sale and
yes, it was very gradual, but it was mostly cash and checks at first. Then we got this little machine from the bank, and you'd put a paper on it and you go, and then they'd sign it, and you'd send one in just like it was a check, and the other one would take it as a copy. But I think all these things are wonderful, but it kind of concerns me to have a totally cashless world where the government can track every dime and everything you spend. So I don't know why that worries me, but I read 1984 and Big Brother, and I see when people are watching and they know everything you do. You pay a 12-year-old boy to mow your lawn, and they've got to pay taxes, and you got to pay taxes for them. What is that squeaky thing going on?
it's a bird outside.
Oh, I'm hearing this rah, rah, and I'm like, whoa, what the heck is that? But I just feel like there's so many people watching all the time, and I personally don't care because there's nothing I do that I would worry that somebody knew what I'm doing, and mostly what they'd be watching and seeing of me would be quite boring. So I don't think they'd take a lot of time watching me and doing what I do. But that concerns me about too much automation is loss of privacy.
Mm, it's a good point.
So so after that, I remember, we had the point of sale. And some of it's kind of fuzzy because I don't remember when things went to from this technology to the next technology because
Uh-huh.
it went a little slower. But then we got the smartphones, and I didn't even get my first cell phone. I was 45 years old. I was really quite old. I was about his age. But
Little
but
older than me.
but I didn't even want to get a cell phone because I didn't want people thinking they had to know where I was every minute of the day. I felt like it was an electronic caller that the wife could call, and if you didn't answer right away, she'd be mad at you because you didn't answer. And I didn't want, I just felt like it was an invasion of my privacy, which is a good thing. But then I got my first smartphone. Started out with a little teeny cell phone, then go to flip phones, and then I got a smartphone, and then we started doing all the apps and the sale. Being able to just pay payments from that, and takes the payments right into everything. And it's very quick, it's very nice, it's very clean. You don't have to count money. But there again, you get to the point that nobody has money anymore. If you don't have that technology, they're going to go to somebody else that has that technology. Um, and I still, I like seeing kids like I remember Justin one time we'd go in and there was like $1 candy bar and he put it on his phone on his credit card, and as a merchant it would cost us like 30 or 40 cents to take that thing. And I'm thinking at that point, you might as well just give him the candy bar, because it costs us more to sell it than it does to to not sell it almost at that point.
Mhm.
So I think there's places that cash is important, but we're getting to the point that there's a lot of places they will not take cash. You go in, and if you don't have other payments, you're not buying their product. And I hate to see that, because to me that's part of it. Says you have cash and it says this, you can buy things with this. And but I guess they have the choice to take it or not take it, and they may lose out on some sales because they don't take cash. But I think a lot of the reason they don't take cash in these places is because it's too easy to steal.
Hmm.
Employees can take whatever they want, and you wouldn't even know that they're taking it. So I would think that would protect the owner of the business from theft from employees. And I think one of the biggest theft in business is from employees. It's not from customers. Most customers, if they forget to pay you, they'll drive 20 miles back to pay you. They're not going to steal from you. But employees, you can never tell.
Mm.
I think if they have the opportunity, they will take it. So I kind of understand that. I don't like it, but I understand it.
Did you digitize your appointment book and your contacts list?
Yes, I stopped all the paper appointments. I got a program. It's called Setmore, and it's just an appointment making scheduling thing where you set it up, and people they could call me, I could put the appointment in, or they can just go in and make their appointments themselves.
Like a website?
It's a website. It's setmore.com, if that helps them sell things. But it there's clients that they will only make their appointments through the Setmore because it's very convenient for them. And I would put it into that appointment, and I've got no more paper trail. And that really made things a lot easier. It made a lot less phone calls. Like when I'm working, if I've got 15 minutes scheduled for a haircut and I cut your hair in 6 minutes, and we talk for what, 8, 9 minutes, tell a few stupid jokes, do the 2 minute scalp massage, every phone call, everything that distracts me from my work, um, puts me off of my schedule. And every minute I get off of my schedule is time that it's the next customer has a time, and they want to get in, they've got a place to go. And so helping me stay on schedule was very important, having people do that. So it became much more efficient to do it on the computer program.
When customers switched from cash payments to other types of payments, did the tipping habits change?
You know, everybody has always tipped me very nicely. In America, they think that tipping is important on so many things. But I never think of the tip if somebody didn't tip me, I wouldn't care. But they do tip me. And if somebody comes in and they don't have money for a haircut, I would do it for them for free. And the next person would come in and give me a double my fee. It would always balance out. So, um, with the machine, I don't know if it's really made it that much more of tipping,
Mm.
but maybe so. I guess it's like chips at a casino. If it's a lot easier to spend something that doesn't look like money, doesn't feel like money, than actually handing money over and going. You got people that are really tight and they go, it kind of squeaks when it goes from your hand to their hand. It goes, but all in all, I don't. The tips are not that much more, maybe a little bit, but
Mm.
I think I think people tip you because they like you. I mean, if I go into a restaurant and I get great service, in America, it's an expected thing to tip. And if I just tip a normal amount, if I really like the service and they did a great job, I will give them a good tip. And I think that's what it should be about. Did they have a great experience? Do they have a little extra money? It's it's nice, but that's not the most important thing of business either, is expecting tips and treating
Mm.
people worse. Treat everybody the same. Just be nice to them. Make it a pleasant experience that they want to come back to you. Every person has a choice to go to many businesses, but they come to you because they like you. Just be nice to everybody.
Did you ever experience a technology disaster?
Well, just last time, I have a program on my smartphone to take money, and somehow it didn't sync up, and I didn't test it to see if it was still working before it showed up, and I had the whole day that's like, how do I take money from people? It was horrible. and and I spent like 30 minutes trying to get back on, and one of the things is I can never remember my passwords. I hate all these passwords, and they want to change it and have these big passwords, and I'm like, I have no idea what my password is. Why don't you tell me what my password is? I should just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But they make you put in all these symbols and all these numbers now, and they won't let you have one that's similar. So I showed up, and it took me the whole day to figure out how to get back onto that program. So that I can say
Ah.
that was my disaster. Or if my vacuum stops working, that's my technology. I cannot cut people's hair without that vacuum attached anymore. I don't want to do it. I would stop business and send people home. I always have extra clippers. I've got an extra vacuum. That would be my technology disaster.
Yep.
I remember one time I had this young man, and I'm cutting his hair, and the electricity went out. It was
Yep.
it was like a transformer blew, and I was like, we don't have hand clippers anymore. You and I was about halfway done with his haircut, and the power went out. And he's probably about, oh, he's got to be 30 or 35 now, and he was probably about 7 or 8 when that happened. And that would be technology. Just having the electricity go off is it would just shut you down, unless it's somebody you can cut their hair with scissors. And I use even my clippers, I use like scissors because it's just a cutting tool that I can cut a woman's hair with them. I can cut, I can do most everything with scissors too. Do I want to? No, I do not, because it's not efficient for me to do it. So if I don't have electricity or lights, or able to turn my vacuum on, I it pretty much will shut me down. But this same kid, every time he comes in for the last 20 years, I'd say, "Remember the time the power went out?" He'd go, "Oh yeah." But but
Yep.
but in that time, it came back on in about 15 or 20 minutes, and I was able to finish his haircut without sending him home and then coming back.
He goes
He
home
was,
half cut.
yeah. If you cut somebody's hair like a skin fade with clippers and you're just halfway done, you do not want to go home.
No.
Although I remember in Red Lodge, Montana, is where we had our first shop that we bought the shop and we took over this guy's business. But it was they had a rural volunteer fire department. And there were a few times when I'm cutting people's hair and that siren would go off and you'd be halfway done and they're like,
Nope.
I gotta go. But that's kind of their choice. That's not if it
Yeah.
wasn't their choice.
Yeah. I'm thinking this might be a good spot to share. Was there a time in my life when I was young and I kind of had a half haircut? Do you want to tell that story because it's on recording?
Yes, I could tell that story. So we had a shop in Red Lodge, Montana, which was about 1,800 people. It's a little touristy town going into Yellowstone Park, and most people know where Yellowstone Park is. They've heard of it somehow, I
Yeah.
would believe. But we had a building that was about 9,000 square feet. We had a basement, a main floor, and then we had an upstairs which we ran as aerobics and we put in a his mother decided she wanted to put a gym in, so we bought a bunch of gym equipment and we had jacuzzis and saunas and we had a pretty big gym going. And I was downstairs cleaning the basement one time, and he was probably 4 years old,
Hmm.
maybe. I'm going with four,
Yeah.
but I'm down in the basement and I didn't realize he went upstairs and he grabbed my clippers off the wall and he ran it right down to the skin, right down the center of his head. Just went, and he comes down with this biggest smile on his face. Is like, Dad, I cut my hair. And it was so funny. It was so we had to shave his head and for months all you heard was, oh, the barber's son has his head shaved.
Down to the skin.
Had to shave it down to the skin. It was pretty funny. And as I recall, your mom was kind of mad at me because that was not your fault. That was my fault.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Were you hoping that I would become a barber after that?
it's funny. No, I wish the kids do whatever they wanted to do. You've got to find your passion. And that doesn't mean it's your dad's passion. It doesn't mean it's somebody else's passion. Find out what you're passionate about and do it. Don't do it because you're going to make a boatload of money. Do it and make a boatload of money off of your passion, but don't do it just because you think, ooh, this is going to make me more money. And we always joke about everybody hates lawyers, but when you need one, you don't hate one when you need one. It's like a good doctor or a good what other jobs do they hate unless you know. But I always laugh with my customers is that, I always thought he'd be a barber, but he became a lawyer. And I'm quite proud. I'm quite proud of that. But he was going to
Oh,
school majoring in Russian and linguistics. And I'm wondering, what what else would you do with that? You go to law school, you become a lawyer because it's like, what? But it's amazing that they can speak all these different languages. And my son here, he doesn't just speak the spoken language, he speaks the coding language. He he's always played instruments and music, and in my mind music is just it's just a language. It's a
mhm.
universal language that everybody knows. Not everyone knows how to speak the language of music, but they always appreciate it. One of the things, he was the oldest child in our family, and he's always been over the top on doing everything. If he does something, he's gonna not just do it, he's gonna excel at it and do everything. Like music instruments, instead of playing one instrument, he'll play nine or ten. He my his sister would always be so mad at him because no matter what she did, he would always have to do better. And she would get so mad because like, can I just do something that he doesn't do better? And And I don't realize how much he kind of affected his younger siblings because he was so good at everything. But I think that kind of happens with the first child.
Eh,
I think there's a first child, a second child, a third child, and you all have different roles and how things are.
yeah.
Depending on how far apart you are, maybe you're really close together and it becomes very competitive, and the younger child can't compete with the older child, so they get mad and give up. Or you'll have kids that are 4 or 5 years apart and they don't even hardly know each other's friends. They're not in the same schools together at the
Mhm.
same time. So I think it's amazing. I I felt like I was an okay musician. I mean, I learned to play the piano. I had 2 years of lessons, and I always loved playing the piano. I feel like I'm very good compared to a lot of the population. I can read music and play almost anything. This kid is so much better than I am, and he didn't have any more lessons than I had really at the things.
Two
But
years.
yeah, I had 2 years of lessons when I was about 6 years old, and I never quit playing. And I feel like I'm quite accomplished. But then you hear other people that are just, it seems like, man, they're just born to do these things. And this young man can do anything. And the coding he does, his brother does computer stuff, and his brother's wife does computer stuff. They work at home. His sister does computer things, and I have no idea what most of them are doing. I asked Ashley, who is his brother's wife, I said, now tell me what you do. So somebody asks me what you do, I can answer something and not just I don't have a clue, but they get paid for it and it must be a good thing. So
Just say they work with computers.
yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
I do that, but then they want to know what they do with the computer. So Ashley told me it's like doing a jigsaw puzzle and putting pieces together until it works. And
That's
um,
basically
it's
everything.
I still don't have a clue what my kids do for work. In fact, I'm not so sure he's even a computer person. He may be doing something totally different in one of those jobs that we don't even need to know he has a job.
uh, is there okay? So, is there anything about your kids, how they do work, compared to the way what work was like for you growing up, and you're like, "Wow, that's weird," or "Wow, I'm jealous."
Yes. When I set a time up for a business and you say you're open at 9, you out of respect for your customers, you're there at 9. And if you say you work till 5 or 6, you better stay there till 5 or 6. You may not have anybody on the books. Somebody's going to show up at 5 minutes to 6 just because they say you're open till 6. But we had to respect the time of them. We couldn't just take off on Saturday. Saturday was always a busy day because that was when people could come to you and they weren't at work, they weren't at school. And so when your kids were in sports and they were doing all these things on Saturday, you couldn't just shut down your business just because you had to go be with your children. And I miss that so much. And I look at the society now, they seem to have so much more flexible time to be with their children. If you are working in a business, like my son here, he can go on vacation and he can do a lot of the work wherever he is, as long as he's got a good connection and a good service to do his work. He can do it from anywhere. Um, we never had that option. You had to be here at a certain time from here to there. If you if you if you took good care of your business, it would take good care of you. Just like a plant, if you take good care of it, it will grow. The business is the same way, and if you take care of it, it will grow and be prosperous and thrive, but you may do it at the expense of your family. I'm very jealous of the time all my kids have because they all work on computers that they can do things with their children. They're not sacrificing their family at the expense of trying not to sacrifice your job. And I pretty much owned my own business most of the time, but I was as tied down as any employee because you had your hours on the sign, and that's when you should be there. And that would be so nice not to have that, but that's just the way it was. And when do you think it was time that people started? Do you think it was COVID that changed it for all this and freed everybody up?
That was a major point. We all worked from home, and we all saw it's completely possible.
And if COVID didn't happen, would this have, I think it would have changed to this eventually, but not so quickly.
Yeah.
It would have gradually taken over, and now people are working from home. They want them to come back to the office to work, and they're like,
Eh.
why? I don't want to. So so yes, that would be it. Just the freedom of being able to do things with your children. A lot of us sacrificed a lot just to keep the bills paid and keep things going.
Mm. Now, looking at your customers, the stories that they told you, and they were a window for you into what people do in their office jobs. Was
Mhm.
there were there ever times where a customer would complain about their office job being overwhelmed with meetings about meetings about meetings about all this pointless paperwork or just office jargon that made no sense and you're like this just sounds stupid.
All the time. But but in general, most people like to complain about stuff anyway.
Ah.
You know what I mean? But yes, if you could automate something and make life simpler, it would be so much better. I've never had the experience of working in an office, so I don't know.
But you've heard
But
about it.
but I've gone the second part of my life that we haven't talked about though is I worked as a baker. I was in the bakers union since I was 16 years old, and I worked until we opened up our shop when I was about maybe 22. Um, I worked in bakeries to get up the point. Then we opened up the shop. And I quit working at bakeries, but I um, I got divorced from his mother, and I needed extra money to pay insurance and child support. So I started working night shifts at a bakery and day shifts at the barber shop
It
just to keep things going.
this wasn't just a normal bakery. This was like a factory,
This
really.
is like a factory bakery that I worked at. And I worked there for, you know, probably 14 or 15 years while the kids were young and making sure all the bills were paid. But then I went back to work at a bakery for a year during COVID because I had enough time in the union. It was called a golden 80
Mm.
retirement to get a pension, and it was when your age and your service added up to 80, you could retire with your pension. So I had just enough time in that I was able to do that, and but I had to go back to work for 1 year to qualify for the time back to. I couldn't just go in for a day and say, "Oh, I'm going to collect my pension." It was a
Yeah.
year, but I put my year in, and then started getting my pension. So I have worked in factories and with people where we've had meetings, and most meetings sucked so bad. Somebody would always twist it into something, and it was like a 2 hour meeting that could have been handled in a 5 minute memo, that really actually made no sense other than
Oh.
getting the workers together and maybe an excuse to talk to each other. I don't know. I look at my kids and they're constantly in these meetings, and I wonder how effective are these meetings all the time, and why do people do that? Why do they feel the need to have meetings about everything?
That could be an entire podcast on its own. Like, what is the point of pointless meetings? Well, whoever is leading the meeting gets to show that they're leading something. They're actually
and
doing something. They're giving value.
and then there's always one person that wants to throw it off on a tangent
Uh-huh.
about nothing.
Uh-huh.
And but they do it. I think they do it on purpose, just to
To show that they're important.
just to show they're important, and they
Yeah.
can twist this meeting off into nothing. And they go into that, and by the time they realize they want to get back to the meeting, they do it, and then they'll do another thing and throw it into a tangent, and then your meeting goes for 3 4 hours, and you wonder, we could have done this in 5 minutes easily.
All right, so let's shift over to the generation gap and how you see technology as an older person who's grown up with this versus the younger generation who, to them, this is completely normal. This is their normal. They don't remember the days that you grew up in. What is your honest gut reaction when you hear the word AI?
I think it's a really wonderful thing to be able to ask a question, and it can go into a data bank of, you could look up all these things yourself, but it can instantly go into all these things you would have looked up and put something together. And I find it very helpful in so many ways, but I'm worried that people will think of that as a companion more than a helper and a friend, because I think the world is becoming very antisocial. I think these kids are addicted to their screens. But if they're not addicted to their screens, they don't have any other friends, because all their other friends are addicted to screens too. And they will come together, they'll play games with each other, and they'll sit in the same room with each other and have the same experience as if they're hundreds of miles apart. So to them, that social, the connection is not that important. And I feel like even with my son here, if we can video talk and I can see him, I can see emotions, I feel like it's, if we're in the same room, we're not constantly just hugging and touching each other just because we can. It's like going to a museum and you can't touch anything. You can enjoy it with your visually, you can have all these things, but it's still good to go to the museum, even if it's just the experience of getting out of the house and being around other people. So it's nice to be with you, but um, and I miss the hugs and the closeness. But families, even when they live together, they're not constantly, hugging each other. You know what I mean? So, but I think the kids have lost so much social things that I really cherished with my work and growing up. And I hang out with my grandkids now, and all they want to do is play these games that I have no idea what they're doing. And I don't have the desire to put all that effort into knowing how to shoot and kill these monsters that I don't even get why they're sitting doing it all day. But I think we need to learn how to break the addictions to the screens. Give them, you've got these hours to do it. You got these hours to, get off of, go enjoy nature, go for a walk, go play with your dog, go play with your friends, go do something. But I think the world's going to turn into just everything's going to be these addictions. And I don't like that.
Ah. Are you worried about how fast technology is moving?
Not really, because I'll be dead in a few years, and it's all your guys' problem. Um, I'm worried about that we are so addicted to this technology that if something major happened, the whole world would be lost, and I wonder how long it would be to come back if that happened. So um, yes, it's just like light speed, and life seems to be going so fast. But I think old people, even 100 years ago, when they got old, life just spins fast. It's like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it's going to run out. I feel like the first 50 years of life, you're clogging. You're coming up this hill. You're going, "Ploo," going up the hill. We're taking care of our bills. We're doing everything we're supposed to do. And then you hit the top of the hill about 50, and then you look down and you go, Holy crap, that's a fast slide into the end. It's like, woo! So, I wonder if the young kids experience time the same as I did when I was young.
Mm.
How was your experience of time when you were
So
younger?
I feel like an elder millennial. I remember the time before the internet, but then I experienced the internet in when I was 12. That was right when teenager years started. So I remember before and I remember after, and I got to experience the entire development of it and at a time when I was able to learn. So I remember we got our first computer in the house when I was 12, and it was simple enough. It was, the whole computer was like 200 megabytes. So you could open up every file and look at the code and tweak it and try to change things. You could open the computer and you could see how it was all working and you could like change where the wires were going. So I grew up with it and I was able to learn how it works piece by piece. Today, everything is so complicated and so complex, and you hand a smartphone to a child, they can't open it up. They
Hmm.
can't see how the apps are actually made. They can't open the code. So they're not learning how to actually use, they're just learning how to click buttons.
Hmm. I remember when we were young, if your car broke down, you could fix the car.
Hmm.
It was simple enough that, yes, it's good to take to a mechanic because they're good at what they do, they know what they're doing. But back then, if something broke, you basically knew what it was and you go buy the part, you could put it on yourself. Now we buy cars. It's there is not much I can do without a computer telling me what to fix, and most of the time that's just replacing a part that I have no idea how to do it. And so with computers, I've never grew up with computers, so I didn't have that skill of learning and doing the things that you've done. Um, Maybe it would have been different, but I kind of miss the old days when you could just use logic and be able to fix things.
Do you think there's such a thing as too much automation?
Nah, I love it.
I thought you were going to say automate the boring stuff that nobody wants to do and let
No,
us keep the personal
well,
relationships. Don't automate
yes,
relationships.
but the technology of being able to spend more time with your children, with your friends and family, um, that technology, I don't think there's too much at all. So,
Hmm.
so no, I think I love technology when it works. When it doesn't work, I call him. I say, "Help me."
Was there a time that technology absolutely scared you?
No, no, it was so gradual that it was not any big deal.
Was there a recent time when technology scared you that you told me about last week? There
Um,
was something with a grandson calling you,
oh,
apparently.
oh, okay. Yeah, I I'm once again, I'm old. He has to do this. Did you talk really slow to me? But yes, I got a phone call and I thought it sounded exactly like my grandson. And it was one of those grandpa scams. And he calls me up and says, "Grandpa," and it sounded I knew which grandchild it was. It sounded exactly like him. He's got a very unique voice. And so I automatically say, and
Just say his name.
it was not coming from his phone, which was weird because it should come from his phone. But he says, "Grandpa," and then I said, "Warren, is that you?" He says, "Oh yeah, that's me." He says, "I've just been in a car accident and I broke my nose and I don't know what to do." And he's crying and sobbing on the phone, and I'm feeling like I should feel empathy for this kid, but my first thought is, why don't we call your mother and find out, make sure this is really you? So I've had people scammed by that, clients that I've known, like old ladies and older people that have been scammed. And I always question, how could you be scammed by that? That sounds so ridiculous, but it sounded so much like him. And they never got to the point of asking me for money because I said to him, I said, well, why aren't you calling from your phone? And he comes up with this ridiculous story because he said he was texting on the phone while he's driving and he got in an accident. The kid doesn't even drive. He doesn't even have a driver's license yet. So I questioned. So I said, well, let's call your mom and we'll get on a three-way conversation, which technology is wonderful. I said, we'll call your mom, get on a three-way conversation, and then we'll figure this out. That pretty much ended the grandpa scam call because once we talked to his mom and he's right there, you know, it's the whole thing's ruined. So anyway, yeah, so that's a little scary. The scams seem to be getting worse and worse and worse, and they're very, very good at it.
All right, let's transition to the future. Advice and wishes. If you could automate one annoying thing in your daily life, what would that be?
That's a really tough question.
Uh-huh.
Um,
It's going to be the aches and pains of getting old.
oh yeah, I'm
Or anything else you want to say.
I'm getting old, and the 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 body is not what it was 30, 40 years ago, but I don't think automation is going to make that any different. I'm just thankful to still be alive and able to do things, even though some things are a lot
You could,
harder.
you could automate
Um,
the stairs. We call them
mm,
elevators.
yeah, that's true. Or in my case, just don't have stairs in your house, then you don't have to worry about it. Um, that, but yeah, and the automatic stairs would be good. Um, That's a really, really good question because when you get older, at the time of what you do in a day, it seems like you do less and it takes more time to do it. But if you don't get up and get moving,
Mhm.
you got to get up and move. So you can't automate life and say,
Mm.
if you automated everything and didn't have a reason to get
Uh-huh.
up, what would be the purpose of staying alive longer
Mhm.
to do things? So I could have I walk my dogs every day and I could have that automated. I could tie them on a little thing that takes them around the same loop and they can sniff all the things and pee on the trees. But that would take the enjoyment of me and the reason why I get to go walk. So
Mhm.
I don't know what I would if I were working a job. Maybe I would want to automate more things to be able to do other things, but since I really don't have a job, my whole job is just to get up and get moving and spend the day. So um, that's a tough one. I don't know.
What advice would you give someone who feels like technology is just going forward so fast, they feel like they're getting more and more behind with it?
My advice would be check in with automateofficework.com. Have my son help you fix it. Is that a good
It
point
is.
to
It
your
is.
business?
It
don't
is.
don't call me. I can't help you. I can help you with anything from divorce to death. I can help you. I can get you through anything. If you're having a rough marriage and mama wants a divorce because she just doesn't love you anymore,
No.
I can help you with that. Any technology stuff, not so much.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn, but I don't ever really check on LinkedIn. So
So
I know
connect
I
with
have an
him on
account.
LinkedIn. If he ignores you,
If you
don't take it personally.
if you are a barber that would like to learn about vacuum clippers, you can connect with me and I will give you some good advice because it's not like just, with the vacuum on the clipper, if you hold it too close to people's skin, it can suck their skin in and actually
Oh.
like give them like a rug burn or even cut them. So you got to be there's a learning curve to learn how to use the vacuum clippers, but it's actually having the hose on there is just a minor inconvenience, but once you get past the learning curve, it's well worth doing. And I would love to teach the whole world how to do that because I think it's an amazing way to cut hair, and it is so much better. You can't go back to the normal way once you try it. So
Have you been injured in a horrific haircutting accident? Call the lawyers at Turman and Associates.
yeah,
And please be careful when you're vacuuming people's hair.
it's a very different way, but if anybody out there would like some information on how to do that, I would be more than willing to help you.
Connect with him, James Turman, on LinkedIn. Turman, also pronounced Jammies. And he might get back to you when he checks LinkedIn like once a year.
like once never. I have a Facebook account. Do I look at it? No. Everybody else does. I would have so many thousand people on that every single minute that I'd spend half my day checking Facebook. I don't want to do that.
Do you want to give away? Do you want to give out your phone number here so you can get more scam calls like that from your grandson?
Oh, sure. It's
Oh yeah.
it's 131. No.
That's mine.
No.
That's mine. No.
It's plus 31.
No, that's mine.
Plus 31 22 FU345. That's it.
Okay, so you're not giving out your phone number. Okay.
I don't answer phone calls that I don't know who's calling. So no, I don't even do that.
What advice would you give to young people? Because you were also a young person, and then technology took off and went really fast. Well, relatively, and the young people today are going to go through a similar thing. How do we prepare for this? How do we get through it? It's going to be a rough ride.
I think it's just a ride you have to ride, and it's going to be life. I don't think we can stop it. I don't think you can avoid it. I forgot to mention one of the most important things that I did as being a barber was they make a thing called a saddle stool that you can sit down while you're cutting people's hair. That saved my feet hours and hours of standing. Plus, you don't have to hunch over as much to reach people because you can pull yourself right with them. So if you're
you could lower and raise.
if you're a person doing hair, don't think you look bad if you're sitting down. Don't make it think you look old. It's an amazingly good thing. Get a saddle stool, and you will never want to stand up and work again. Just a final thought I didn't think of.
It's another theme on this podcast. Stop the manual work. Save your body.
Yeah, if you don't have to if you don't have to stand, sit. If you don't have to run, walk. Save your body. Be lazy.
All right. Well, this has been great content. Great time meeting with my dad, sitting down for this conversation. Any last words, I guess?
This has been the most amazing hour and a half of my life, and I'm honored to do this with my son. Not honored, but it's special. So thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
What's a podcast?
It's kind of like a radio show, but people don't have to listen to it live. They can listen to it later.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't really... Just kidding. I really didn't know what a podcast was. Do I watch them very often? No, I do not.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of the Automate Office Work podcast. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Justin Turman, Turman. I'm the lawyer, coder, and linguist currently in the Netherlands, just outside Amsterdam. And if you have any other suggestions for content that you would like to see, maybe you would like to be a guest to come on to talk about practical subjects, or just going through your own personal struggles. And we can talk about how you could go about to automate it using often the tools that you already have. And maybe even just learning how to structure your work in your mind. You can describe it then to somebody else who does actually have tech skills, or you could bring in AI and have the AI suggest how to do it. But yeah, being able to break your work down into a process, being able to describe that to somebody who can actually then help you is a great way of doing it. And I provide this kind of content as well. So reach out to me. Let's get the episodes that you'd like to see, and please share this with your friends and your colleagues, especially if we talk about like some not so not so comfortable subjects like those meetings of meetings of meetings of meetings. If you'd like for them to start thinking about that and be like, gee, why am I having that meeting? Share this episode with them and start the conversation. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
And with that, as I always do, at the end of every episode, I wish you happy automating.